This is Chapter 8, Section 3, The Crusades and the Reconquista. Our objectives are to explain the causes and effects of the Crusades and summarize how Christians in Spain carried out the Reconquista. They're going to reconquer the Iberian Peninsula. Terms and people, I've left these here for you just to make it easier. And here we go. How did the Crusades change life in Europe and beyond? Thousands of Europeans took part in the Crusades. You guys had an assignment over April break where you learned about the 8 Crusades. In these wars, Christians battled Muslims for control of lands in the Middle East. They pretty much were after the Holy Land, Jerusalem. The encounters of Europeans in the Middle East increased the pace of change at home. The Middle East didn't go through the Dark Ages like the Europeans did. They didn't leave learning behind. So the Europeans are going to discover learning. They're going to discover different products that they didn't have before, silk, spices, things of that nature. And they're going to figure out how to pay for it. They're going to figure out a banking process. In the 1050s, Muslim Turks invaded the Byzantine Empire. They extended their power to the Holy Land in Palestine. The emperor of the Byzantine Empire at this time is Alexius I. He will send a message to Pope Urban II saying, please help me, send me a bunch of knights, please. He wasn't thinking he was getting 60,000 people. He was thinking 30, 50 knights would be nice. Pope Urban II at the Council of Clermont is going to put forth this idea, hey, who wants to go help free the Holy Land from the infidel? And plenty of people at the Council of Clermont will say, yes, God wills it. We want to go. Pope Urban II actually promised these people, you go on crusade, you're going right to heaven. Do you really think that the Pope had the right to say that? Did God give him that message? Yeah, everyone's going to heaven. You kill a lot of infidels, you go right to heaven. I'm not sure that's the way God looks at things, but anyway, that's what Pope Urban II said. Christian knights captured Jerusalem in 1099 in the First Crusade. You guys did this over vacation. However, Jerusalem is going to fall to the Muslims again in 1187 under Saladin. Please notice all of these routes that are taken to go on crusade. All of these routes are going to lead us to the Middle East and the Holy Land, and those routes are going to lead us right back. So trade is going to happen as all of the Crusaders go back home. It's going to open up Europe to all kinds of possibilities, and that's going to be the rest of this semester. The Crusades did not achieve their goal of retaking the Holy Land. That's not exactly true. They did capture Jerusalem with the First Crusade. During the Third Crusade, Europeans failed to retake Jerusalem. The Third Crusade's participants were pretty famous people. The Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, who was going to drown on the Third Crusade. Richard I, or Richard the Lionheart of England, pretty famous for liking the fight. And Philip II of France, we've met him before. When Frederick Barbarossa drowns, Philip II pretty much goes home. Richard the Lionheart of England is able to capture a city called Acre, which is on the way to Jerusalem. And Acre is going to be used as a city where pilgrims to the Holy Land can relax. They can, if they get there, they can relax before attempting the rest of the journey to Jerusalem. But it really didn't, the Third Crusade really did not retake the Holy Land. During the Fourth Crusade, Crusaders will fight other Christians. The Crusades were very famous for knights killing not only Muslims, which was their goal. They killed Jews, and a lot of knights said, well, what's the difference, Muslim or Jew? What difference does it make? And they killed plenty of Christians as well. It's really unfortunate. Now, the Knights Templar is going to come into existence around 1118. In 1128, the Pope is going to ask the Knights Templar to protect pilgrims who are on their way to the Holy Land. So that's their job. Now, they are knights, but they are a holy order as well. They're monks, knights and monks at the same time. This is their crest. It shows two monks on a horse, which shows that they're poor, like monks should be. But if you notice, they have armor on. So they are knights. They will fight for Christianity. The Knights Templar are famous for bringing banking to Europe because knights, kings and knights going on crusade or people going on pilgrimage, they can't carry all of their money with them. Their money at this time is coin. Coin is very heavy, and they can't barter for everything they need. That's simply not possible. So the Knights Templar set up banks along the route. So you deposit your coin with them and they give you something that demonstrates how much money you actually have. And you can spend that along the way. You can go to a bank at another city, or you can go to a bank when you get home to Europe and take your money out that way. It makes things easier. It's going to make things easier for Europe when it comes time to increase trade. The effects of the Crusades, bitter legacy of religious hatred. There had already been that legacy, but this makes it worse. European economies expanded. I mean, they actually did very well. Trade will increase. The use of money will become more common. It's going to lead us to a time that we're going to call the Renaissance. Monarchs raised armies. Kings raised armies. If kings have big armies, then they have a lot of power. We're going to see that. Europeans developed a wider worldview, and some set off on a new age of exploration. We will talk about Christopher Columbus in, I believe, chapter 15, but we are going to meet Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, who are going to set Columbus out on his journey. And here they are. The crusading spirit continued in Spain in a campaign called the Reconquista. They want to reconquer the Iberian Peninsula, which had been taken over by Muslims. If you guys remember the Battle of Tours, and Charles the Hammer Martel, the Muslims are coming from what we call Spain and wanting to invade the rest of Europe. The Battle of Tours will stop them in 732. The Muslims are still in Spain. By 1300, Christians will control the entire region of the Iberian Peninsula, except for the tip called Grenada. Here we go. Sorry about that. These four maps demonstrate the green is all Muslim. So in 790, they owned most of the what we call the Iberian Peninsula. This is France up here, okay? In 900, they owned quite a bit, but please notice this is going to be Spain. We have two major areas, Castile and Aragon. Those are very important to us. In 1150, they're pushing the Muslims out. And notice we have Portugal starting to become a country on its own. And our last map, 1300, here's Portugal. This is not a united Spain, not yet, but it's close. Castile is huge. And here's Aragon. And this is Grenada. This is the little bit where the Muslims are still around. This is all Christian, and they want to push the Muslims out. Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile, in a political marriage, 1469, will unify Spain. It was a pretty happy marriage, too, from what I've read, and they have plenty of children. they will make a final push against the Muslims in Grenada. Grenada will finally fall to the Christians in 1492. I believe that year should sound familiar to you. The tradition of relative religious tolerance experienced under the Muslims was at an end. Christians are very rarely tolerant of anybody, any other religion. The Muslims, as long as you paid the tax, they didn't care if you were Jewish or Christian, it didn't make any difference to them. You were free to practice your religion. Not true under the Christians of Spain. That is going to lead us to, unfortunately, something called the Inquisition. Isabella wanted to bring religious unity to Spain. She wanted everyone to be Christian. No tolerance for non-Christians. If you were Jewish or Muslim, she expected you to convert. Jesus Christ was automatically supposed to be your savior because someone was pointing a sword at you. Unfortunately, that's not the way religion works. More than 150,000 Jews and Muslims flee Spain because they are afraid that they're going to be killed, and probably that's what would happen. Some people conformed, they changed, they became Christian on the outside when they really did, they were still Jewish or they still uh, believed in Islam. However, if you refuse to conform, there was something called the Inquisition. The Inquisition was brought to the world through the Dominicans, the friars, unfortunately, under St. Dominic. Um, it was a court where people were tried for heresy. Heresy means that you are breaking the Catholic Church law. You're going against what the Catholic Church says. And if you were found guilty of heresy, you could be burned at the stake. So an awful, awful way to die. In 1492, after Isabella of Spain brings religious unity to Spain, she's got the Inquisition going, she got rid of the Muslims, she's getting rid of everyone else that doesn't conform to Christianity. After that, she gets a little bored in 1492. She has some money in her treasury, and along comes an Italian that we're going to call Christopher Columbus, and she is going to fund his sail to the New World.